Hello, hello.
You're there. I can hear you. I can see you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you too. Who
Will we
knows what
have
happened? Say
are
that
we
again.
live now?
We are live.
What a
Uh,
magnificent beginning of us being just confused.
very, very confusing. Well, let me tell you something. This is Don't Bury the Lead. This is the WWE Smackdown post show. We had some technical difficulties, but all's well that ends well. I'm here live with my partner and co-host of the show, Dom Scarcella. Dom, tell the people a little bit about yourself.
I am glad to be back doing a SmackDown show here. This is really interesting. We're coming out of a pay-per-view. Um, so that's always interesting, especially since it's a major pay-per-view, Survivor Series. Had a lot of fun doing that recap of Don't Bury the Lead. But hey, weekly shows are what makes those big pay-per-views taken up another level. So this is really the meat and potatoes of WWE's content, these weekly shows. Um, so I'm ready to go. There's a lot of information from today's show. So hey, like we say here, don't bury the lead. What's our top story here?
You're right, Dom. Don't bury the lead. Indeed, our top story tonight, the main event, was exactly what we both like, which is Ricochet and a long, good match. Ricochet wins the Smackdown World Cup is what they're calling it. So Ricochet wins the Smackdown World Cup, which is the tournament we both have liked so far.
Yes.
Ricochet went over in probably about a 25-minute match. So pretty good long main event here.
And it was the kind of main event that when it started, I didn't think this was going to be a great match just because there was so much interference. Because I wondered if they were just putting this on last because they had to. But it turned into a pretty decent match. I'm going to go maybe a little rogue here. I think coming out of Survivor Series, the lead is where do you go with story angles?
Yes.
And based on that, we can go basically wherever we want to here. Since you started off with Ricochet Santos Escobar, and it was a great match, that's one place we can go, and I'll follow your lead there. It was a great match, and it's also the kind of thing that started before Survivor Series, but wasn't finished at Survivor Series. In fact, it wasn't involved in Survivor Series at all. So with all sort of the controlled chaos of getting into a huge pay-per-view, getting out of a huge pay-per-view, this World Cup was kind of a stabilizing force there. And I think they managed to give enough gravitas, that's my new word, by the way, gravitas, to this last match, this last several segments, because like you're saying, it was a long match. It spanned a couple of commercial breaks. Ricochet wins. Ricochet's going to face Gunther, who Wade Barrett kept calling General Gunther, which annoyed me on two counts because it's not Gunther, and what's with the general?
Right.
So but he's going to face Gunther. And they are billing that for 2 weeks from tonight. So December 16th. It was a great match. And not the kind of thing we're used to seeing on SmackDown a lot. Because both of these guys were high flyers. Both of these guys were that luchador style. We don't get a lot of luchador versus luchador matches. We get Ricochet versus people who are not like Ricochet. We get Rey Mysterio against, and nobody's like Rey Mysterio. We get Santos Escobar, but I think he fought more of a luchador style in this match than I've seen of him before. And granted, it's a small sample size, but I mean, this was a luchador style match. and it became a little spot festy at the end, but I think the guys executed well. And this was fun to see. And of course, at the end, Ricochet grabs the World Cup Championship trophy, and Gunther comes out with the IC belt, and they just have that image of them going off the air, looking at each other. They know each other well. Gunther beat Ricochet for that belt over the summer, or late spring, and so they're going to do it again. This being, Spot Fest sounds like I'm ragging on the match, but it was that kind of match. But it wasn't a bad Spot Fest match. What did you think were, I guess, some of the main sequences, or anything stand out to you about the in-ring work here? Because we both enjoy the in-ring work.
Mm-hmm. So, Dom, I'm an honest man.
You are an honest man.
And I will tell you the truth. I had a variety of technical difficulties, so I was not able to really see in great detail some specific spots. I caught the beginning and the end.
Those were the best parts.
Yes. The very beginning, well, I would say overall, I was pretty surprised. I did catch enough to notice that, like, I've never seen Escobar before, and I've never seen him wrestle. But I was like, he's pretty good. I mean,
he is good.
He was deserving.
And he's been in this. They made the just to kind of follow up on what you're saying. I'll throw it back to you, but they made the comment on from the announce table that each of his 2 wins so far in this tournament were with the aid of outside interference from Legado del Fantasma, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, LDF for short. And so it was interesting because, I mean, you've seen him before, but you haven't seen him without his entourage kind of winning the match for him. So this was interesting because LDF gets thrown out of ringside after they interfere early.
Yeah.
Ref throws them out because he wants a real one-on-one match to be settled in the ring. And so really, for the first time, we get to see Santos Escobar not with that crutch. Because sometimes those crutches, I get that they're part of a storyline, but sometimes those crutches will mask the fact that a guy's really talented in the ring just because they keep doing the crutch. So tonight, I'm going to go with you here. Tonight was really the first time in our 2 months and a little bit more here that we've seen Santos Escobar really wrestle a one-on-one match. And I thought even though he loses this match, I thought he looked really good.
For sure. And one of the things is he looked good. He got an opportunity in the main event, and I've never seen him before. So he's got to be feeling pretty good about himself. Because I saw him come in, and I was like, who is this guy? And whenever you don't know who the guy is in WWE, they can hang around for a little bit. They never get their shot. They kind of like make him into some goofy comedy character gimmick or something like that. But he was in the main event tonight, and I'd have to say he impressed. And I don't know him, but he did a great job. And it might, I don't know if it's more of how strong of a worker Ricochet is, and he can just wrestle a broom, if you will, and just go out there and do anything with anybody, or how good Escobar is. I did notice too, they did a pretty cool reference to the LWO. Do you remember these guys from WCW?
No, I think these guys are too young for that. The Latino World Order when the NWO came around, and it's, my gosh, it's 26 years ago now. ECW did the Blue World Order with the Blue Meanie. Then NWO split into NWO Original and NWO Wolfpack. And then, they teased like a Latino World Order, an LWO. But I don't think enough people were ready for it. I mean, I know the name, but I don't remember them doing anything. I think Escobar and Ricochet are too young for that anyway, but they're in that style.
No, I think what they did, he had with Escobar when he came out, he had like 3 letters that were like in the style of NWO. I don't know what it was, 3 letters, but
Was it
like
LDF?
LDF, and it was the colors
Legado
of
del
LWO.
Fantasma. I wonder if they're doing it in the style of LWO to maybe make people think back to that. I didn't catch that, but that's a good eye by you. Santos Escobar seems to be maybe he's new to WWE, so I don't know if he's a guy who's been hanging around. I think he's new, and they're trying to give him a push and really the faction behind him.
Yeah.
He performed pretty well in this World Cup tournament. And being in there with Ricochet, he got to do some things that we just don't see a lot. He did a Hurricane Rana on Ricochet off of the barricades, which sent Ricochet crashing to the floor outside. It was a big spot, a powerful looking spot as well. And he got a 2 count out of that when he threw Ricochet back into the ring. Then later he goes up to the top rope while Ricochet's up there. He basically stops a Ricochet offensive maneuver from up there, goes up himself, does the Hurricane Rana off the top turnbuckle. Ricochet lands on his feet though. So that was a neat wrinkle there. And then they traded, it was almost a pay-per-view match. Like pay-per-view matches are famous for guys hitting finisher after finisher, but suddenly in a pay-per-view match, they don't work.
Yeah.
Guys kick out at 2, even though it's the finisher that would have beat him on TV.
Right.
So it kind of got a little bit of that later on, but Escobar, man, he hit some fantastic moves. Got the knees up to block a spinning kind of moonsault that Ricochet does off the top rope.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he did a nasty looking move that I don't know what he calls it, but it was almost a reverse Frankensteiner, where he winds up like spiking Ricochet on his head. It's almost a weird kind of DDT-ish power drive-ish pile driver kind of thing. Of course, Ricochet kicks out at 2. And then Ricochet winds up winning with a 630 off the top turnbuckle.
That was wild, right?
Right? Yeah, he spins completely around and then almost all the way around again, and it winds up being almost senton bomb, like, because he's landing on the guy with his back. He's doing the splash but landing on his back rather than his chest and stomach on the splash. I have not seen that before. Well executed, and that got the win. I think each guy looks strong, and I think it's great that they put this match on last, because it's, don't bury the lead. And yes, I know you're coming out of Survivor Series. Don't bury your storylines that we're building before Survivor Series and didn't get a showcase at Survivor Series.
Yeah, it's
so good job. So a neat call by WWE for putting this match on last and giving their tournament for the IC shot the kind of the big stage here. I don't know if that was playing around in your mind as well, but I especially the way the match started, I was going, oh man, did they really want this match to go on last? But as it picked up, I was like, yeah, okay, I'll take it. Solid match, a match we haven't seen before, and it was for a big deal. Somebody's getting a shot at the belt.
Yeah, and they give the World Cup, SmackDown World Cup goes to Ricochet. Mm-hmm. That's really cool because we've been singing Ricochet's praises for a while now. We've been talking about how, yeah, he's pretty good, but he always loses. Mm-hmm. And now he wins a tournament, which is like, you need to win multiple times to win a tournament. And
just like, I'm going to call back to something you said about Santos Escobar, and this being the first time we really see him one-on-one without his entourage. This is the first time in this tournament where Ricochet has gotten a win without an asterisk next to it. He beats Mustafa Ali because Ali's injured. Like Bobby Lashley, beat the heck out of his ribs 4 days earlier. So he gets that win over kind of an injured opponent. He beats Braun Strowman thanks to the interference of Imperium. But tonight, Ricochet gets a one-on-one matchup. So I think it was good for both Santos Escobar and Ricochet to have a long match where there's no extracurricular activity. It's 2 guys fighting with something on the line, and they each perform well.
Yeah. definitely. Big fan of the main event. Admittedly, didn't catch bits and pieces of it, but got the gist of it, and I like the direction. And really, not much to add based off of what you said, and just can't agree anymore about. Like, it's cool they kept this like mid-card story alive throughout all the pay-per-view build-up.
Mhm.
So you're kind of working on two levels. You have like Roman Reigns, Bloodline, anything associated with that. That's your big main event story. And your mid-card is anything with Gunther. And it's simple enough, and it makes for good TV, So there is
One
a
last
reason.
question for you.
Mhm.
You're a big Gunther fan. I've been impressed with him too. Considering all the people who were in this tournament, even putting aside that, he was very good enhancement talent coming into the tournament. Surprising to see Ricochet, disappointing. When you look at Gunther and Ricochet in that stare down, plausible to you that that's the matchup, or would you have liked to have seen this World Cup go in a different direction?
I thought Ricochet would get the sympathy win over Mustafa. And I thought he would get the sympathy win, kind of like throw him a bone, and then he wouldn't, and he'd lose to somebody. I was pretty surprised to see that he was the guy they selected to have the big matchup against Gunther.
Me too.
Yeah.
And I
So
tell you, I'm thinking that
especially when you saw Braun Strowman in it,
yes,
like, oh, he'll just mow everybody down, and then you'll have Gunther versus Braun Strowman.
I think we're going to see that anyway.
Yeah.
Win or lose the title shot in 2 weeks. I think we're going to see Gunther versus Braun Strowman, and it's the kind of thing that would be neat for the belt, but I think it would work even without the belt. So I think regardless of what happens in 2 weeks in the IC title match, I think we're going to see Gunther Braun Strowman, which I think will be interesting.
I would hate for Gunther to lose the title at this point because he's been the best wrestler that I've seen on SmackDown.
Yeah, he's been the working man's wrestler, which is what that IC title is for.
Yeah, he's really doing the Harley Race stuff with the IC title, where it is the best worker on the roster that seems to always have that, right? So, yeah, so I would be like, I'm hoping that Gunther retains it. So we talked about the main event here. What do you think?
This is the best of the angles that carried through the pay-per-view without being settled or anything boosted at the pay-per-view. What do you think was the best of the rest of this show?
I am, I'm starting to pick my favorites. I'm starting to become a fan again as we've been watching after 2 months. We didn't watch it for 2 months, so I didn't really have pull for anybody. I was just like watching it. But my favorite part of the show is Gunther every time. So
okay.
Well, it could be Gunther or it could be Sami Zayn and Bloodline. Those two pretty much are the reasons I want to watch. So I would say tonight with Gunther versus Kofi Kingston, another good match out of Gunther. One thing I'm starting to notice is Gunther works slow, but it's not necessarily like a lot of guys that work slow just kind of gas, and then that's why they slow down.
That's why they're slow.
Yes, like really, like some guys, like he works really slow because like 15 minutes in they're blown up, or 10 minutes in they're blown up, and then there's like these rest holds. But he works a lot more intentionally slow, where it's slow moving and boring, and then he can pick it up when he has to.
It's his character. His character is deliberate and stalking, but he's not rest hold, gassed like you're saying, and it's slow only in comparison to Kofi Kingston, Rey Mysterio,
Ricochet,
guys like that.
Our main event.
Ricochet, and even then it's not slow. It's just that he's not bouncing off the ropes. He's not springboarding all over the place.
Yes.
He's not setting a guy up for a Hurricane Rana. So Gunther definitely wrestles the style of a bigger wrestler, but I don't think it's boring. I don't think it's bad. This was a neat match with Kofi Kingston. And I think each guy wrestled their style, and you know, Gunther's good at this, and maybe this is why he really is a good IC champion, is because if you're the world title holder, you're only getting the A-listers. But if you're the IC title holder, you're going to wrestle a greater variety of opponents. And Gunther seems to be able to do that. He can wrestle Sheamus, but he can wrestle Rey Mysterio. He
He is
can
getting the
wrestle
sampler
Kofi
platter.
Kingston.
Yeah, he is getting the sampler platter of WWE.
Yes.
Which is like, yeah, guys that are up and coming, guys that are old veterans hanging around that just, and, he got a good match out of Mysterio, who's great, but Sheamus, who sometimes that doesn't necessarily have the best matches on the planet, although he's been pretty good recently. Kofi Kingston, a variety of people that he's been up against where they wrestle different styles than him, and has delivered on them. So he definitely has the sampler platter thing going for him right now in WWE.
And it's good for him to get this win over a high status guy like Kofi Kingston, and also to do it by himself. Again, Imperium thrown out from ringside after interfering, although they stopped a Kofi Kingston dive attempt. So I was wondering if you were watching that and cheering like, yes. So they stopped an early dive by Kofi. The ref throws him out. So Gunther has to wrestle a match without his crutch. And I think that's good for him heading into his title defense against the World Cup winner.
That's interesting. There was 2 matches tonight where the refs threw out the heel managers.
Right.
That's like,
and the entourage's whole thing, like, get out of here. Leave the match, go one-on-one.
That's interesting because they usually don't use that too often.
No.
And I don't see too often when the entourage gets thrown out that the entourage, or the guy, the person that had the entourage with them wins.
Gunther won.
Usually
you're
that's
right.
like, oh, the entourage is out, the baby face is going over because the entourage is there. And they're going to be like, and the crowd gets all pumped. But then even though the entourage was gone, Gunther goes over clean.
Yeah. It was. He did go over clean. I liked it. He wins with something he calls a new move. Apparently, it's the Last Symphony. It's basically a side power slam, which I wonder why that's more devastating than a regular power slam. But apparently, it's like a power slam is not a finisher, but a side power slam is a finisher. Okay, well executed. I'd like to see him how that looks on a bigger opponent. I mean, Kofi Kingston, like executing a move on Kofi Kingston, Kofi will make it look good. That's one of his skills as a guy who knows how to sell and at being such a great athlete. Interesting enough, and Braun Strowman was involved in this match. He was sort of the reason why Imperium got chased out. In fact, I'm going to correct myself. I don't think they said, because it happened during a commercial break. I don't know if it was the ref throwing out Imperium or it was simply they got brawled with Braun Strowman out of the arena. Like, we didn't get to see it. Which the result was the same in the sense that, whether the ref threw him out or Braun Strowman just chased them out or the ref threw everybody out. Gunther winds up in there by himself, one-on-one with Kofi, and we get a good wrestling match for the rest of it. One thing, if I can tell, since we've made an LWO reference, since we made an LWO reference, I want to bring up another reference that Kofi Kingston did before this match started, because I laughed at it because I got it. They had Kofi Kingston out there for like 5, 6, 7 minutes just dancing in the ring while they did a commercial break and then promos.
He's always dancing, yeah.
He has to fill time. So as they're finally getting ready to introduce Imperium from the back, Kofi is doing a dance reminiscent of Alex Wright. Alex Wright was a WCW performer from more than 25 years ago. He debuted. Like he was, I think, pre-WCW Monday Nitro. He was there for the Nitro time, but he was even before that. And he was the German Wunderkind, the Wonder Kid. And as they're introducing Imperium, they've got the in-ring camera on Kofi and the microphone's on. And Kofi says something like, yeah, you remember Alex, right? Well, you guys look like Alex wrong. And, between puns and 25-plus-year-old WCW references, what more do I need really for a spot there? So yeah, Kofi with the verbal spot even before the match started. What a nostalgia throwback for me and maybe three other people in the entire viewing audience.
Yeah, these are pretty obscure WCW references.
Right?
Alex Wright
Alex Wright.
And LWO, which was like when WCW was about to shut down, like 6 months before they shut down, they created the LWO, and they didn't go anywhere. You really have to dig deep and know your stuff to know about Alex Wright and LWO. But they're referenced tonight, so hey, maybe they're digging deep and paying attention. You got War Games too. That's WCW, so hey, maybe that subscription at WWE's Peacock or whatever they are now. Maybe they're digging deep into the WCW vault and stealing stuff from that, which is not a bad idea.
They own it. They might as well use it. Like it's theirs. Nobody's going to sue them because they made an Alex Wright reference.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure if Alex Wright is watching, he's thrilled. Like, oh my goodness, he just gave him a shout out on WWE Smackdown live TV, prime time. Why not there? So I don't have much to say about that match other than it was the kind of match that Gunther needs a clean win going into the title defense for the World Cup winner. And the World Cup winner got a clean win tonight. So 2 clean wins, that's good. Of the other either matches or promos that we saw, because there were a lot of promos coming out of a major pay-per-view, they got to start building new storylines or new directions. Lots of stuff going on here tonight. Of the things that were either also carried over from pre-Survivor Series, do you want to go there next, or do you want to go, or did something of the new spots they're promoting really get your attention?
I would say the Sami Zayn thing.
Yeah.
And also the continuation with Sheamus.
Yep.
Attacking, Sami Zayn, he's cool with the Bloodline. He goes out. He knows a great place to eat around there or something and leaves.
With Solo Sikoa, because Sami needs a bodyguard.
Right. And then Sheamus attacks both of the guys with his, what is that weapon called?
The shillelagh.
Shillelagh. So he attacks both of the Usos, which again, pretty heely to just beat up people with a stick and sneak up on them, beat them up with the shillelagh. But
it's a stick. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. It's a stick. So pretty heely, and I thought that would be done. Like they threw it together, they did the War Games. Now let's move on. It's over. But I guess they're going to try to get a little bit more out of it.
Well, yes, because the War Games Advantage match, Sheamus and Drew McIntyre beat the Usos. Now, it was a non-title match, so the Usos didn't lose the tag belts. But, that's the kind of thing that, something old, something new. They're wrapping up some of the pre-Survivor Series Bloodline stuff, but now they're going to something else. Like, hey, Sheamus, not only did you guys screw me tonight, but I didn't forget that me and Drew McIntyre beat both of you guys and lucky for you, your belts weren't on the line. We want you if you've still got those belts next week. So now it looks like Sheamus and Drew McIntyre, old rivals who are now on the same side, which started with Survivor Series and looks like it's continuing at least for a little while after Survivor Series. That might be a neat match to see. I don't know how long that program can go, but I'll be I'd like to see that for the title. I mean, it was a great matchup in that advantage match.
It makes sense now that we're kind of talking about it, and we are live right after the show, so I'm always kind of computing things a little late here, but they don't seem to have the strongest tag roster in the world on SmackDown. We haven't seen a lot of men's tag matches. You have the New Day, you have the Usos, and then you have that's kind of it. You've got Hit Row, who are dancing people that aren't very good. You've got the Vikings guys who are
guys they're trying to build up, so maybe it's coming. But yeah, you're right. As of now,
but so I would be interested. Put two guys that are proven singles guys together, Sheamus and Drew McIntyre. That's a pretty cool team. Right away, I'm like, I would definitely, if they were just a tag for a while, I think it's a good idea. And Sheamus tagged years ago. I don't know if you remember this guy, Cesaro.
Yes, I do remember Cesaro.
Yes. So Cesaro and Sheamus tagged, and they were pretty good. And Cesaro and Drew McIntyre, Cesaro's a little bit more technically sound, but they're huge, successful singles guys. So you could probably just put one of them in, and they could have a good combo together.
I think it's
physically big.
Yes.
Stars.
Yeah, and Drew McIntyre's he's formidable. He may be the biggest of the four.
He's a monster. Yes.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where that goes too. I mean, the match itself, I almost thought going into it, okay, there's got to be outside interference because Sheamus versus Sami Zayn on paper, that doesn't seem like a fair fight. But with a little help from his friends, Sami Zayn looked pretty good in this match. So it was pretty neat. And it allows them to further the storyline that, hey, the Bloodline really does accept Sami because they were willing to help him in this match.
We still have that cooking. Eventually, there's going to be a turn, and I can't wait for it. But now it seems like they're all aligned again, and they're all hunky-dory. When it was looking pretty obvious that they would, split at some point. So
yeah, they're almost going too quickly and too over the top with everybody gets along now.
Yeah,
which almost like our Survivor Series recap. It's the kind of thing where sometimes it's better if there's that ambiguity. If somehow this whole thing breaks down, we'll all go, oh yeah, they were playing it up too much. And if it doesn't break down for a while, we'll go like, oh yeah, it was genuine. We'll always look back and hindsight will be 20/20 no matter what happens. I do like some sequences from that match. Did you have any favorite maneuvers? Any spots that you really liked from Sami versus Sheamus?
Nothing really to call out from my end, to be honest with you. Pretty good match, but I didn't really catch too much of the notes on there, but I enjoyed it.
I liked it too. There were a couple times where Sami did have some pretty good spots where he looked strong. Sheamus was going for white noise up on the second turnbuckle, but Sami kind of writhered out of it and turned it into a power bomb move, which he then sat down and got a 2 count out of it. That was pretty neat. But then, guys were reversing each other. Eventually, Sami went for a haluva kick, but Sheamus got the bro kick in first. And then Sheamus looked like he was going for another white noise. That's when Jay came in and super kicked Sheamus while the ref didn't see because, refs, they're human too. They don't see everything. And that leads to Sami getting the pin. So neat match, some neat sequences. Sami was clearly fighting an uphill battle, but hey, that's why he's got his dogs.
It's the interaction between just the look of him and when he talks to the Usos, it's just comedy gold. Yep. How about And I'll talk about our thumbnail here, which is Shotzi.
Okay.
Shotzi and Shotzi had a match tonight with.
Well, she came out for a save, which is interesting. With Shayna Baszler versus Emma.
Okay.
And they they made Shayna look pretty strong in this match. Not only beating Emma, but then Shotzi came out to make the save. And so, but then Shayna Baszler beat her down too. And then Raquel Rodriguez came out, and at that point, Shayna Baszler exited the ring, but she's like staring up at him, going like, "Yeah, it took 3 of you."
Yeah.
So that was interesting. Now, in the new angles thing, I want to call out your girl here because she was good on the mic, and it looks like she's setting up something here. How about Bayley with Damage Control, just crapping on Buffalo, crapping on the fans, crapping on Becky Lynch?
I love the cheap heat when they trash this city.
Right?
It's just it's so cheap, but it's so good. Especially when they're in a city that is a little lesser. Like, it's not a Los Angeles or New York. You're in Buffalo, New York. So you can take some shots and you're like, oh, that is digging a little deep, right?
Now, do you like Bayley comes out and is basically, calling the SmackDown roster a bunch of losers, that there's no real competition for the tag division for Dakota Kai and Io Sky, who, they're the Damage Control members who have those belts. But she's also kind of ragging on maybe some singles competition. That's a heel move, but we got a little bit there, which means that it looks like they're trying to build up some more rivalries in the women's division, because War Games kind of settled a lot of things in that women's War Games match. So now it's like, okay, where do you go from there?
Yes. Well, Bayley's always been really solid. So any direction that they go with her is good. Her character is really interesting. She's had pretty good development. So she was like almost childish when she first came on the scene as a babyface.
Okay.
And come out like with this wacky inflatable man, and like it was almost like she was a child. Like, she'd be like hopping and skipping around, and now she's like an angry emo teen a little bit, where she calls people stupid, and she's got like the emo haircut, and she's like, has that whole vibe going. So she's more like an angry like 15-year-old that's got like their headphones on and not happy to be on the family vacation. That's really kind of what her gimmick is right now. Angsty teen. So she's done a good job, and it is like, talk about progressions. Like, she was a child, now she's a teenager in her brain. But she's.
Did you like and that followed right after Sheamus attacking the Usos there, kind of second hours there. Did you like Liv Morgan comes out and just attacks 1-on-3, and then somebody I haven't seen before, but I've only been watching 2 months. Tegan Nox. Do you know anything about Tegan Nox?
No, but I saw her come out. I saw that was a big thing that she came out, and
so she came out to help Liv. Yeah,
that's something we can learn together, because we've only been watching the show for 2 months now. So that is somebody to keep on our radar.
And then Liv comes back in with the kendo stick, and that's how that segment ends. So maybe trying to get some new rivalries going in the women's division. I think that's good, because a lot of these women, like we've been saying, they can wrestle. Liv Morgan can go. Damage Control, all 3 of them can go. This Tegan Nox, apparently, they're going to give her some sort of push. It looks like she can go too. So, yeah, these are wrestlers. I'm interested to see where that heads.
Did you notice if the crowd popped when she came out, this Tegan Nox person, or was there not anything noticeable?
They gave her the big entrance with the thing up on the video board as well. So, was that crowd or was it piped in? I don't know, but it was supposed to be a big deal. So I, not knowing who she is, if they tell me she's a big deal, then you get the benefit of the doubt. And so I will say yes, Tegan Knox was a big deal. Um, I don't know if the crowd was into it, but I mean, then again, like Bailey said, they're all losers anyway.
Yes.
But I mean, they seem to be into it. I mean, they were kind of into it when Liv Morgan came out. She seems to be someone who's kind of over, probably because of her style. That she's smaller than the other competitors, but she's quick. She does sequences. She strikes well. She'll use aerial maneuvers. So when she comes out and gets into things, I mean, people are into it.
Liv Morgan is somebody that when we first started watching, we thought might not be that good, but it was because her dance partner was Rhonda, and once she moved on and started to wrestle other people, you're like, oh, she's pretty good, and we're like, oh, we didn't factor in had not seen Rhonda match up with people yet, so okay, so Liv is actually pretty good. She just had to deal with Rhonda.
And I think everybody in Damage Control I mean, I don't know if this is going to be Bailey Liv Morgan next or what, but I mean, that seems like an interesting match. I think they do well for each other.
Hey, as
we've now talked about all the actual wrestling matches on this show. Everything else was some sort of promo. Trying to get some new stories here of the promos we saw, whether it was a couple of Bray Wyatt things, carrying Cross, the Uncle Howdy, which is supposed to be tied to Bray Wyatt, more of LDF trying to be built up. We saw some Emma and Madcap Moss backstage, and we gave him a little peck on the cheek before she went out to get their butt kicked by Shayna Baszler. Of all these things that they're trying to, maybe they're throwing out feelers to see what people react to. What stood out to you there?
I'll push that back to you because I'm curious what you think. We've been kind of, at first we were like, Bray Wyatt, we don't really get it, and then with LA Knight involved, it was a lot better. So what did you think tonight of Bray Wyatt and some of the stuff that he was doing?
They're playing up the dyslexic thing, or the bipolar, or just the split personality, or whatever it is. It looks like unless Uncle Howdy, excuse me, I don't think I may have that right. Uncle Howdy,
I think
is
you're
that
right.
it? Uncle Howdy. Unless Uncle Howdy turns out to be a totally different wrestler and not just a Bray Wyatt alter ego, they're playing up two sides of Bray Wyatt, which, I mean, this is kind of Mick Foley-ish, where he's Cactus Jack, he's Mankind, he's Dude Love, and you never know which one you're going to get.
Yeah, it's not you're right. You're nailing it. It's Mick Foley. Where they have these three different personalities, and sometimes it's Mick Foley, sometimes it's Dude Love, Cactus Jack, Mankind. So he's got four personalities. Yeah, that's about right.
I don't know that there's an actual hippie personality to Bray Wyatt yet, so I don't know if it's like really mapping onto the Mick Foley three split personality thing. But yeah, there's at least two, and it's been a while since Mick Foley did that. So maybe it's time to try that again with a different flavor and a different wrestler doing it.
Did you see?
Eventually, they got to move it along. This was, I mean, he debuted at Extreme Rules. That was 3 pay-per-views ago. The way the WWE moves so quickly this time of year.
Yeah.
Like, they started this 3 pay-per-views ago. Can the guy have a match?
And right, can he? That is a great point. He hasn't wrestled any matches. They've done all this wacky storyline stuff. Like, can we get a little bit of the payoff here of where this is even headed?
Maybe this gap between, because I don't think there's a December pay-per-view. So maybe this gap that Survivor Series, now we're on the road to Royal Rumble. Maybe we've got 2 months here where we can start to see some of these things with a long build without having to throw a pay-per-view in there. And maybe that pay-per-view schedule where, 4 weeks and then another 3 weeks, you have to build a pay-per-view. Maybe that isn't conducive to trying something new, especially when you're trying to play the long game with a thing. So, you know, maybe this break between pay-per-views that now it's going to be 8 or 9 weeks. Maybe we get some clarity on some of these things that have been very slow to develop.
Mm-hmm. Did you see anything with LA Knight tonight?
No, he was not on except referencing past footage from past Smackdowns.
That's bizarre because they all the Bray Wyatt stuff was headed in that direction. Now they're going
Mentioned him.
Okay.
Mentioned him a couple times, but 2 weeks ago he beats up LA Knight backstage, or Uncle Howdy does. We don't know. The week after that, LA Knight's got a crutch and a sling over his left arm, and he's talking about how Bray Wyatt is lucky that he's injured because he'd go after him and whatever. And then LA Knight winds up behind some equipment holders in the back with wheels on them, crushed against the wall. And so this week he's not here. So maybe, he's not coming back until he's actually physically ready to. But Bray Wyatt mentioned him. So that makes me think that maybe there's something for both of those guys down the line.
I hope they keep moving in that direction. I think we both were big fans of the LA Knight and the Bray Wyatt contrast, and the promo was really good between the two of them. So, I mean, they keep showing him on screen, and he's doing all kinds of stuff, Bray Wyatt, whether he's beating up people in the back, he's shooting promos where he just is himself. He's got an Uncle Howdy. Like, let's pick a lane, right? Let's pick a lane, and let's dumb this down a little bit, because it is kind of all over the place.
How about fantasy booking? Even though he would have to lose, would you be up for LA Knight and Bray Wyatt as an in-ring match? I mean, yeah. Bray has to win that, but
that's where it gets goofy, because LA Knight's so new, and I'd like to see him get hot, or at least they give him a little bit of a run here. But if he goes out and just gets squashed by Bray Wyatt, then
not a squash, but because a squash, that'd be terrible. Yeah, I mean, don't bury your wrestlers. Don't bury the lead, and don't bury the wrestlers. Not everybody can win, but I mean, don't make guys look embarrassed.
Yes.
So I'm not saying that LA Knight gets squashed. Yeah, right.
Unless it's the Brooklyn Brawler, is that who it was? Who was?
Oh yeah, guys who were jobbers who they just tried to make look a little better than jobbers.
Yeah. So yeah, like if you're a Brooklyn Brawler and that's your role, go for it. We're not hating on the jobbers out there. We love you, jobbers. But LA Knight, he's not a jobber, So
no, but he can lose to Bray Wyatt, and I think it would be a pretty good match.
Sure.
Because I haven't seen Bray Wyatt wrestle, so I don't know his style in the ring, and I don't know if they're trying to give him a different style with this new character. So there's a lot of unanswered questions with Bray. We need to see him get in the ring. But me as an Eli Drake LA Knight fan, I mean, even if he gets beat, I think that would be pretty neat if he gets in the ring with Bray and they have a match.
Yeah. No, I think that's probably the best direction, or at least what I prefer to see. Who knows what Uncle Howdy is? But let's narrow it down. Is what I would say.
When last we saw Rey Mysterio, he apparently got hurt and was in some sort of walking boot. And then they were doing vignettes where his son was interrupting Thanksgiving dinner, and with Rhea, his other member from Judgment Day, going to the Mysterio house and beating up Bray during Thanksgiving dinner. But now it appears that the Karrion Kross is eyeing Rey Mysterio. So on one hand, great, because that means Rey looks healthy. But what do you think about that? Is Karrion Kross the kind of guy who can get in the ring with the greatest of the small luchadors ever and wrestle a believable match?
Yeah. So the thing with Karrion Kross is I watched him wrestle a match with Madcap Moss, and I liked it. I just don't. But all the vignettes they've been doing and whatever sort of entrance and personality, I'm just not into at all.
Okay.
So it's weird. I think there is some potential. Well, first of all, if you can't have a good match with Rey Mysterio, then you can't have a good match with anybody. And ultimately, I'd have to say that he would be okay in the ring just based off what I saw with him and Madcap Moss. It just is his gimmick sucks, but what are you gonna do? That's just
It's yet another mysterious guy. He's very mysterious. They're turning over like tarot cards or something to determine who his next opponent is going to be. And they turn, I think it said the Emperor, and it was Rey Mysterio Jr., who I don't think has ever been the Emperor. I don't think that's ever been a gimmick. I don't think they ever called him that. I mean, Wade Barrett called Gunther the General tonight, but I don't think I've ever heard the Emperor for Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, I don't know why you'd call him the Emperor.
But he flips over the card, the Emperor, and it looked like Rey Mysterio to me. Did I get it wrong? Tell me in the comments. Did I read the tarot card incorrectly? Is it not Rey Mysterio who they're hockeying with Karrion Kross? It's somebody with a mask on who they think is the Emperor. It looked to me like Rey's mask, but whatever. Karrion Kross. He goes Drew McIntyre, Madcap Moss, so two big guys who match him as big physical wrestlers.
Is it the Great Muta?
Is it the Great Muta coming back? Yes.
Is it the Great Muta for a retirement? I mean, that would be awesome, but...
Are they sending him back for the Great Muta to do a retirement match? Yeah, my goodness. So that people from WWE can actually know who the Great Muta is.
Yes.
So in the last few weeks, we've had Michael Cole make a Great Muta reference, which I don't know how many people in WWE got. And tonight on the hot mic, Kofi Kingston goes Alex Wright, who me and two other people got.
Right.
And that includes Alex Wright and maybe his mom. I don't know. Like those are the three of us who got it if they were watching, but okay.
I do remember Alex Wright because they'd say like Alex Wrong can't dance. I think it was like a sign that's just like buried in my head for some reason. Alex Wrong can't dance. Like
when he was a baby face, they liked his dance. When he was a heel, it's like, oh, we don't like your dance. The crowd is so fickle. It's the same dance.
It is the same dance. Well, Dom, anything else from this show, or are we doing the Irish goodbye? Are we doing the Italian goodbye here?
I would go Irish goodbye with this. Coming out of a major pay-per-view, you expect it to be a little bit of a mixed bag as far as what they're going to do, and we got a mixed bag tonight. If that was the norm and it happened every week, I'd question what was going on. But coming out of a major pay-per-view, okay, I'll take a grab bag show with a little something old, something new, maybe them throwing out feelers for things.
Yeah, I think it's one of those shows after a pay-per-view. It's kind of like a slowdown, right? We're kind of build to the next pay-per-view, so they got to set up a bunch of storylines. And they gave us a good match at the end. So not a lot of complaints from me here. I'm actually like a little bit pleasantly surprised because sometimes they'll come out of a pay-per-view and it's really random. And it's really just like we're still trying to figure everything out. And the beginnings of storylines usually aren't that great. We'll see if they materialize as they go along. And then, they at least had this other World Cup to focus on, which was like, I don't know if it was on purpose or a happy accident. They're like, oh, wait, we got to finish up the World Cup. Like, we have it still. We've been doing this thing. Okay, let's make this the main, So, but either way, pretty good show overall. And, thanks everyone for watching and appreciate. We've been getting a little bit more traction as we've been doing the shows more and more, a couple more likes and subscribers. So appreciate that very much. Subscribe to the channel for sure. That's very helpful. We're starting out here. We're figuring it out. I had a power outage and my lights were out here, so that's what I was playing around with. But I appreciate you, Dom, doing this with us tonight.
That's a shoot, not a work. I mean,
Not a work.
sometimes the electricity and the connections, they go on you.
Yes,
You know.
it really. Yes, this is live, folks. So, Dom, I appreciate you joining us tonight, and we'll be here every Friday night.
Show.
And we'll
check back with the channel for shorts and clips. We do the long live stream once a week, but there's plenty of content that we make off of this. If you like the bite-sized chunks, if you like the shorts, leave us comments so we can take the heat if you got some criticisms of us, or if you just want to hit that like button and just let us know that you're enjoying it. It's worth your time. It's worth our time so far. I've enjoyed doing it. This has been a good 2 months getting back into WWE and getting on the air. And hey, gravitas.
Gravitas. And thanks for joining Don't Bury the Lead. We appreciate it, guys, and we'll see you next week.